Hey there, friends. Dave Politis, K&M Missing Project, a copyrighted edition for our video channel. And this is another edition of Huck TV. Yes, Huck is our executive producer. And she's got one of her play toys right here, and I put a little piece of edible in it. And I buried it in there far enough where she really has to work. So she uses her mind. It's amazing to me. She will actually pick that up and drop it knowing that the concussion of hitting the ground will sometimes drive it out. Smart dog. Smart dog. So we got her kind of busy, and she's pretty happy right now. So let's get on to our Bigfoot class. And this is Bigfoot 101, class number 8. Can you believe we got that far? Yeah, it's amazing. So, let's think about some things. First of all, December 13th, the big release of Missing 411, the UFO Connection. And I've already got some reviews coming back to me from the people who attended the movie, the premiere. I'm really lucky because the reviews have been really good. A lot of the people that attended the premiere are longtime followers. They've watched most of the movies, and all of them said, Dave, that's even better than the other two. So I'm pretty excited. The executive producers that work with me are really excited. So keep your thumbs up. Now for the people, it's Christmas time. I got to put this out, folks. This is our knit cap. And for Bigfoot followers, this is what you want during the holidays. It's 100% acrylic, really warm. It's on our website. Get them for your friends, family. I've got to plug every once in a while. And also the poster you can get on our website. That's NA, like NA, North America, BigfootSearch.com. And you can find all of our books there. Do not buy our books on Amazon, eBay, etc. You'll pay for the Missing 411 books. You'll pay 4, 5, 6 times what we're charging for on our website. So now this book, we've been talking about it, the Hoopa Project, first book I ever wrote. And I took the manuscript for this after I wrote it, and I mistakenly thought, gee, it'd be really nice to say you're a published author. So I went to Hancock House, and they ate it up. They said right away, yeah, we'll take it. We want to do it. So, and then I did Tribal Bigfoot through Hancock House as well. And they are the publishers of the book. So they're the ones that put up the online version if you want to get the book, through an ebook format. But go to hancockhouse.com, and they're out of Canada. If you're a Canadian citizen, you can get my books there at Hancock House, and you don't have to pay a heavy shipping fee from us for international because it'll be coming through your country. So this and Tribal Bigfoot are on their site. Now, that picture it's on the front cover was drawn by Harvey Pratt, and that was one of the witnesses in the book. Well, hey, Huck. That did that. Now, Harvey, I talk to him all the time, and we're always discussing stories he's heard and incidents he's been in. Ever since we first met, we've heard stories that kind of align between Bigfoot and another dimension, Bigfoot and another world, Bigfoot and the Sky People. It's always haunted Harvey and I. Even Harvey, and he'll talk about it openly, and I don't think he's ever talked about it publicly, but he said it'd be okay to talk about it. When he was a young boy, he grew up in Oklahoma. He was walking home from school, and he said that he saw just like a standard UFO come towards him in the sky and stop right near him. Then he doesn't remember anything. He goes, Dave, I know I've been abducted. And honestly, I believe it. The reason being is that Harvey has some abilities that I can't even explain. When he sits down with a witness and draws a sketch, it's like he can see through the witness's eyes. The sketches are so accurate. Now, what I'm talking about, the suspect sketches he drew for the Oklahoma Bureau of Investigation. That's really an art. Now, I have a very tough time in the Bigfoot world understanding why researchers try to cut corners on their work. Here's what I mean by that. Harvey cost me a lot of money, okay? He was paid very well to do the work in the book. And it was worth every penny. But I also knew I had an FBI trained forensic artist that was top notch. So I knew that he was going to draw exactly what the witnesses saw. Now, I could get any artist to draw it and just listen to the people and draw a sketch, but that really wouldn't be authentic. And Harvey's had so many sketches admitted into evidence in court that it proves his accuracy. And I wanted to do things as accurate as possible. I didn't want any second guessing. Oh, I could have done this better. I could have done that better. And then there was John Green, who we've talked about in past classes, in a newspaper in British Columbia, who took an interest in Bigfoot. And John took some stories from some witnesses, and he had affidavits written to ensure the accuracy of the reporting and to lock the people in on their story. Because some people still don't get this affidavit idea. Well, Dave, so what if it's an affidavit? So what? There's several groups in the Bigfoot world that have a big online presence that have stories on their websites that aren't true. How do I know they're not true? I've talked to the people that reported them. They said, Dave, that's not what I said. That's not what happened. They completely changed the story. But now, when you have an affidavit, I type it up, and it's signed under penalty of perjury. You get a copy, and I get a copy. And I write my story off of your affidavit. There can never be any question. That is what was said. And I did that for multiple reasons. First of all, I knew this was happening back 15 years ago, 12 years ago, when I first started to get into the Bigfoot world. And I said, we've got to get past this. If Bigfoot reporting and Bigfoot research is going to be taken as credible, we got to get away from owners of websites changing them to fit their own belief systems. Okay. Now, one of the things Harvey and I talked about was that we kept hearing these paranormal type issues with Bigfoot from very credible people. And we didn't know quite what to make of it. We didn't know quite what to make of it because no one was reporting it. Or very, very few people would even talk about it. They were trying to make Bigfoot fit into the animal kingdom. And that way it would be normalized. And normal researchers and normal academic people would take a step in to maybe do more research. And the more you delved into it, the more complicated the facts got. Again, Ray Crow, who I bought a ton of research from, said, Dave, the more you know about the topic, the less you really know about the Bigfoot. And that's true. So, I go into Hoopa, spend a lengthy period of time. And I buy the research of Ray Crow, a big-time researcher up in Oregon, right near Portland. Now, part of that research had to do with buying his boxes and boxes of old newsletters. Now, this one, as an example, you won't find it anywhere. It's called the Bigfoot News, September 1977. And in it, it talks about some recent sightings of footprints in sandy soil in British Columbia. It talks about an Oregon sighting. It says, report of a sighting, this is September 77, Report of a sighting in Medford area near junction of Highway 5 and 66, evening of September 27th. Walking to witness one John C. Martin Creature walked across road in front of a car. Martin did not stop. Incident under investigation as of the end of September. Report of footprints being found in the Teague River area Sunday, September 25th. It's reporting like that. And then they have a section called Look Back in History. One of the most important parts of my research. Because, hold on a sec, Huck's getting into some. Hey, oh, good girl. One of the most important parts of our research, because we study history for a reason. What's evolved, what's changed, what's different, is anything different, etc. So this is what the article says, titled Hair-Covered Men in Europe. From the manuscript of Ibn Fadian, F-A-D-I-A-N. Look Back in History this month takes us back to the year AD 922 in a strange manuscript which is the basis of a new book called Eaters of the Dead by Michael Crichton. Published by Bantam Books, author of the manuscript is one Ahmad Ibn Fadian, a member of the court of Caliph in Baghdad, who was sent in the year 922 on a journey into Europe as an ambassador to the king of the Bulgars. Hold on a sec. Here, come on. Come on. Yeah. There you go. Okay, now I'm going to be a little more quiet for you because I know the thump was getting annoying. I heard some of you say it. On the way, Fadian fell in with a company of Norsemen and stayed with them for nearly 3 years as a reluctant guest. His manuscript, in diary form, which is left of it now, tells of his incredible adventures during this period. And while some of his stories that he recounts have raised doubt in the minds of those who read them, others have, in time, been proven to be true. In page 78 of the book, as Fadian describing in great detail a town that he entered with the men of the Norse party. Quote, 16 wooden buildings, all the same, log houses precisely set so as to form a square, etc. The place that he described is believed to be Trelleborg in western New Zealand, in Denmark. That's what it says. Excavation by archaeologists in 1948, nearly 1,100 years later, confirmed the accuracy of his diary. For Bigfoot buffs, his accounts of the attacks of the Norsemen by the Wendol, W-E-N-D-O-L, or hairy creatures of the North Country, will be of great interest. Fadian calls them by a number of names, including demons, but he states emphatically that they were mortal beings. He mentions their powerful stench and their matted hair. He states that he seemed to be nocturnal and described them as follows. They appear to be man-like in every respect, but not as any man on the face of the earth. Short creatures, broad and squat, and hairy on all parts of their bodies except their palms, their soles of their feet, and their faces. One of these men, on being mortally wounded by a Norseman, made sounds which seemed like speech to Fadian. The Norsemen attacked and killed them as a matter of course whenever they encountered them, and it would appear, according to Fadian, that the Wendol fought back with considerable spirit. Fadian's description of the Wendol has sparked considerable debate among scientists who feel that the creatures may well belong to the troublesome area of the Tree of Man that contains the ancient Neanderthal of Europe, an area about which even to this day so little is known. The Fadian manuscript also mentions something that will interest Loch Ness Monster mystery followers. Writing on some 357 years after St. Columba reported a monster in the ancient Scottish lake, Fadian reports similar creatures seen at sea while on a boat journey with the Norsemen. The Norsemen were in fear of these huge creatures, and while some think that they might have been whales, others feel that the Norsemen knew whales and would not have been in fear of them, let alone mistaken them for something else at sea. This is why you read the history. They look like men in every aspect. Not animals, not apes, not gorillas, like men. And the more I continued to read about this, the more I started to pay attention to other things. So, there's a man named Peter Byrne. Peter was a big game hunter in different parts of the world. He's a true British gentleman. And he ran an organization called the Bigfoot Information Center in the Dalles in Oregon. And he sent this letter to the FBI. This letter, Peter was tight with Ray Crow, and Ray got most of his letters. This is what he sent. This is dated August 26, 1976. This institution conducts research on and into the Bigfoot phenomena of the Pacific Northwest of the USA. We have been in operation for nearly 6 years, and we are associated with the Academy of Applied Science in Boston. And this is fascinating. Peter wrote to the Academy of Applied Science in Boston and got a huge grant to study Bigfoot. It was one of the most formalized, interesting studies that was ever done. Go on with the letter. From time to time, we have been informed that hair, supposedly of a Bigfoot, has been sent for examination to the FBI, has been examined by the FBI, and with the conclusion, as reported the examination, that it was not possible to compare hair with that of any known creature on this continent. And that is true. Well, at least it can't be compared to any known creature on this continent. Next paragraph. Will you kindly set the record straight once and for all and inform us if the FBI has examined hair which might be that of a Bigfoot? When this took place, if it did take place, what were the results of the analysis? Please understand that our research here is serious, that this is a serious question that needs answering, and that an examination of hair or the opposite by the FBI does not in any way, as far as we are concerned, suggest that the FBI is associated with our project or confirms in any way the possibility or existence of a creature known as Bigfoot. Yours very truly, Peter Byrne, Director, Bigfoot Information Center. Well, Peter wrote that in August 26th, 76. September 10th, 76. I've never seen a response that fast by the FBI on anything. So congratulations, Peter, on getting this response. Dear Mr. Byrne, reference is made to your letter dated August 26th concerning the reported examination of hairs by the FBI lab in connection with the Bigfoot phenomenon. Since the publication of the Washington Environmental Atlas in 1975, which referred to such examinations, listen carefully to this wording, we have received several inquiries similar to yours. However, we have been unable to locate any references to such examinations in our files. Signed, J. Cochran Jr., Assistant Director, FBI. Wow. Now, did he deny they did it? No, he didn't. Did he deny that they came up with those conclusions? No, he didn't. I'm 99% convinced the FBI did this for the Atlas. They came up with those results. They reported them, and then they just never stuck them in the files. They did it maybe as a friendly gesture. But I read you this because of the word games the FBI has played for decades and decades and decades. It's just their style. And you got to read it and be careful what you're reading and how it's interpreted. But that's one of hundreds of letters I have. And coming from the FBI, original copy, kind of cool. So, I'm going to read this to you. This came from the Marshfield News Herald, Thursday, August 1st, 1991. The town of Frankfurt. Klaus and Rita Massman walked behind their home earlier this week and pointed to an area of packed down brush. Nothing was really on the ground, but everything was flat, Klaus said in a thick German accent. German. The Massmans were looking at an area on their property where they believed Bigfoot had been recently stood. Yes, Bigfoot. And this is in Wisconsin, folks. Kind of northwest of Milwaukee. You know Bigfoot, the huge, hairy, ape-like creature that dozens of people have claimed to see over the years, particularly in the Pacific Northwest? However, there's no solid scientific proof that such a creature exists. Pay attention. This is how they try to manipulate your mind. Ape-like, no scientific proof. They're throwing up all of these things to try to put down the idea that this is even possible. But they write the article because they know people are going to read it. This is written by a man named Greg Subert. But don't tell that to the Massmans. According to Rita, family members have seen the creature no less than 4 times since January 11th. The Massmans report seeing the creature roaming their 80 acres of wooded and swamp property along the Big Opline River, about 3 miles southeast of Cherokee County Park. Rita said her family's encounters with what they are convinced is Bigfoot date back to July 9th or 10th. On that day, she said her 10-year-old son, Raymond, asked her to come outside and see a monkey footprint. Rita said she was skeptical. I said, I'm not going to go outside and look at a monkey's footprint. Now, where are monkeys going to come from in the middle of Wisconsin, she said. Then it started on July 11th with my first sighting. She added, my son took his bike and parked it right out there where the swings are. I wasn't home and my other kids weren't home, only my son and my husband. My son got scared, Rita added. He let the bike go and he ran toward the shed way back there. And there was that thing standing there as tall as our shed. The creature had a big ape-like face, Raymond had told his parents that day. Like any curious kid, he decided to follow it, Rita said. The thing ran off and then Raymond, saw the piece of gray fur on the ground. Rita said she came home from work and Raymond told her what had happened. I said, is this some joke? You know, this kid's thinking up some good fantasy, she added. The creature returned the following day. Rita said she was resting down before her work. All of a sudden, all of the dogs were barking, she said. My son ran out with my daughter, and he saw this thing stick its head out, and he saw the whole face. It was a different color now. It was brown. He got so scared that he ran in the house and told me, and I got upset. Klaus returned home a short time later. He got our neighbor, and they both went out into the woods to hunt this thing down, and they couldn't find it. After the incident, she said she called the Marathon County Sheriff's Department, in turn notified the State Department of Natural Resources. I gave them the sample of the fur and asked them to find out what it was, she said. They said it could be a dog, but none of my dogs are really gray, so that's left open. She said the third sighting occurred July 14th. I came home from night shift and I went to the shed with the kids because I know this thing was out there, and my daughter said she saw it. She said the 12-year-old Monica saw this creature. The Massman's fourth sighting took place on July 15th, Rita said. Her son had burned his finger on a waffle maker and was soaking it in cold, frigid water in the bedroom. He looked out the window and saw this thing run past his window. The thing kept me busy all day, she added. Every time the dogs barked, I ran out looking for it. The creature is sometimes seen in the afternoon and sometimes at night, according to the Massmans. We don't know what it is, Rita says. If it were human being walking, we could catch that person and say to get off our property. This thing we can't catch, no matter where we go. It's outsmarting us, she added, and it's strange. If it were a bear, it would have taken my goats and my beehive, and it would have destroyed the chicken fence. But there's no destruction. She added that the family had lived at the same location for 8 years. Klaus said he carries a machete on his belt. If it attacks me, at least I have a chance. The Massman said they'd like to have another possible explanation, but they have none. Someone might be harassing us, but would they dress up in a monkey outfit and on stilts, Rita asked. The dogs wouldn't be afraid of that. Rita said that she didn't think the intruder was a bear, and Klaus agreed. We've heard bears in the woods before, growling and making noises, but this doesn't make any noise, he said. It's quiet. That's what makes it unpredictable. In one way funny, because we can't explain it. Rita admitted that her neighbors have trouble taking them seriously. They think we're crazy. But do you think I'm going to joke about this, she asked. I'm from Chicago, Rita said. I want a peaceful life. I don't want nosy neighbors. I want to do what I want to do. This is my paradise. but something's invading it right now. She added that the appearance of Bigfoot in the area might have something to do with a reported unidentified flying object seen in the area about a month ago. Pay attention. Robert Cassian, 17, said he was cultivating corn on the parents' farm in rural Colby at about 2:30 or 3 a.m. and noticed a large object above him in the sky, about a quarter mile away. It was kind of like a helicopter, but it had headlights, Cassian said. I don't know if it had anything to do with the Massman's reports of seeing a Bigfoot, he added. It was kind of weird. Rita said she had heard about the incident at about the same time she and her family first began seeing Bigfoot. He was on the tractor and he saw the thing with lights hovering above the barn, he said. He shut off the engine in the tractor and there was no sound from the aircraft, no motor. She added he'd watched it closely and then it zoomed off. So the pessimist would say, well, so what? You saw a quiet helicopter, whatever. The true researcher would say, how many times do we have to see this correlation between unidentified objects and boom, somebody sees a Bigfoot? How many times? The other thing that's in this enormous amount of research are letters. And I've read probably half of them. And I have a big box in my room and I just sit there and every once in a while pull a letter out to get through it. Now this one's an interesting story. And it's dated January 10th, 2003. Sorry, and I took so long to respond with the Camp Sunshine story, but I put in some long hours at work. I did manage to finish Vince Orchard's latest book, which I enjoyed a lot. The Camp Sunshine story happened in '62, but it was only a month ago when it came to light. My friend was asked by his boss about a month ago if he knew where Camp Sunshine was, since Gary lived with me on St. Clair Road and he remembered it to be on a road that branched off of Old St. Clair Road. Well, what he called Camp Sunshine was what we locals call Camp Smoky, or the Boy Scout camp. It consisted of a block building and a strip mine pond about 2 miles off St. Clair Road, near what was called the Sons of Italy Road. Scout groups would camp there, and local kids like me would play hooky to fish for native brookies in the upper end of Gray Run in Dry Hollow. Gary's boss said that he always wanted to go camping, so he joined the Scouts. In '62 and at age 12, he was camping at Camp Smoky and decided to take a short walk. In the process, he encountered an 8-foot-tall, hairy, man-like creature watching him. When the creature realized that he had been seen, it ran behind a tree and peeked out from behind it. Gary's boss ran back to camp and told the related story. I guess it was a Bigfoot. Another twist to the story came a month earlier when a member of a local sportsman's club located on St. Clair's Road was showing some photos that he had taken. There were photos of deer, bear, coyote, bobcat, rattlesnake, and a back view of a creature with his head profiled that resembled a large ape. My friend asked if that was a Bigfoot, and he replied that whatever it was, it had thrown rocks at him. Gary had been looking for this member ever since it took place, but he hasn't been able to find him. He knows what part of town he's in, but he can't seem to find him. One more quick story that took place in the same mountain chain, Laurel Ridge, about 4 miles as the crow flies from Camp Smoky. This past October, a friend of mine, a buddy named Joe, came into his pizza shop and was visibly shaken. He told Joe that he was just coming from his evening walk off Laurel Ridge summit. He had walked in about 2 miles when he smelled a powerful smell that stopped him cold. As he was wondering what the smell could possibly be, a tremendously loud roar began as a low growl and continued a high-pitched scream shook the air. He told Joe that the hair on the back of his neck stood up. He said that he took about 10 steps backwards and then turned and got out of there as fast as he could. As soon as Joe told me the story, I walked in on the gasoline after work till dark. About 2 miles, I saw the white posts that the hiker talked about in the area of the encounter. I didn't find any tracks, nor did I hear or smell anything. The next evening after work, I drove in 5 miles to the gas valves after dark and used my million candle power light to search the woods. It was very cold and a clear evening, and the only game that I spotted was deer. I haven't been there since, but that is an area heavily hunted during deer season. As soon as some snow melts, I plan on relocating Camp Smoky and searching the area for signs of Bigfoot. It's a large mountain chain, but I'm very familiar with it since I spent 40 years on foot walking over it. The current encounter is the first that I've heard in the last 15 years. It's a large area, about 70-mile hiking trail. Each year hunters got lost on it and are found the next day, so there's lots for a Bigfoot to remain hidden. Thank you, Ray, Johnstown, Pennsylvania. Now, there's a lot of those stories. Remember I told you that I never pushed Bigfoot on anybody, but specifically my kids. But Ben always wanted to know more, especially when he got into college. His first year playing at Miami, Ohio, I think they were ranked number 6 in the nation. Really good team. One of the star players on the team, pretty important guy, carried a lot of weight. We were there for parent orientation, and there were parents of players that had played for the team for a long time, and there were new parents, and I was just sitting in the background, keeping my mouth shut, my eyes open and learning, and Ben was standing next to me, and I won't name who the player is, but he walked over to me and he said, "Hey, Mr. Politis." I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Hey, you've written some really good books, and I wanted to let you know that my brother, who's going to be here tonight, has seen a Bigfoot." And Ben's standing right next to me. And I said, "Really? Where?" And he says, "Well, I was up on the Great Lakes, and he was at a summer camp. And I'll let him tell you the story, but I don't usually talk about it much, but he felt comfortable enough that he wanted to approach it." I said, "Great, I'd love to talk to him." So the guy walks away. He's the star player. I look at Ben, and Ben's eyes go, "Whoa." So about 15, 20 minutes later, this room's packed with people. The parents of this player and his younger brother walk over. They start talking to me. And they said, "Yeah, when I first heard the story," this is the dad I first heard the story, I admittedly found it tough to believe, but over the years I believe it. And the story is that he was at this camp right next to a lake. It was at night, and they had lamps over the buildings, and some of the kids were standing outside, and the brother is standing looking towards the lake and this light on the side of a building, maybe 100 feet away. And this bipedal Bigfoot walks out of the forest into the light, kind of looks their direction. 2 kids saw it, turns, walks around the building and back into the forest. I said, "So on a 1 to 10 scale, how sure are you that you saw it?" He goes, "A 10. "Can you describe how big it was?" "Oh, it was huge, and 7, 8 feet tall at least, massive, bigger than any linebacker or linesman you can think of." And he said, "Oh, Bigfoot." I think that might have been a moment. I think that might have been a moment that Ben's opinion, he was always supportive of me. He was always had an open mind, but I think that's the one that turned the corner. Because here you have the star player on the team, his brother, coming over and saying he saw that. It was that epiphany moment. I'll never forget it. And I can remember Ben and I talking about that night for many, many times. So, this isn't a story. This is a discussion about footprints by a man named Archie Buckley. So, a little story about Archie. He's from the San Francisco Bay Area. I met his wife when she lived in, I think, Hayward or San Leandro. In his early years, he actually carried cameras for Ansel Adams. In World War II, he was an expert on physical therapy and reconditioning of war veterans. And he was the chief of physical therapy and reconditioning at McCloskey General Hospital in Texas. And then he went to went to the Oakland VA Hospital in the Bay Area and did research on amputees and rehab. He would be considered an expert on ambulation. And in fact, he had an article published in JAMA in 1959. Now this article is important because it's coming from an expert and somebody who studied Bigfoot. This is in the Bigfoot News, August 1977. And again, this is from the Bigfoot Information Center and Peter Byrne who put this out. So they were looking for very credible people to talk, and they got Archie Buckley to talk. In the span of 40 years of field investigation work, I've probably examined the imprints and stride characteristics of a dozen different big feet in California's Sierra Mountains and Trinity Alps. In studying their footprints, I find that the weight bearing is directly over the astragalus, astralalgus, with initial pressure points on the heel, the calcaneus, and the first and fifth metatarsals. I find no evidence of an anatomical deviation from the human foot, except in kinetic function. In this respect, I find considerable more lateral movement, particularly in the phalanges, the toes, and metatarsals than civilized man whose feet, due to the restrictions of shoes, have lost much of their natural functional movement. Such lateral range provides for greater mobility and movement through forest and over mountainous rocky terrain. Their feet contain 26 bones so grouped as to form two arches, longitudinal and transverse. I've never examined a series of imprints that did not contain evidence of both, with toes pointing straight ahead and with little or no outward rotation. But this is not to suggest that they never ambulate with their feet angled outward. On several occasions, I've tracked them up steep alpine and mud and snow slopes where they resorted to herringbone patterns with more effective traction. The presence of arches indicate that Bigfoot is an excellent upright walker. This is, of course, suggests anatomical similarity to man, and none to the arthropoid ape. Friends, please, these are these moments where you got to really pay attention. Now, the people in the ape camp hate me. Why do they hate me? Because I bring facts and I destroy their arguments. Huck brought her rubber bone back in and is dropping it on the floor again. So I bring them facts from experts that many people have never seen, and other Bigfoot researchers don't want to even see it because it blurs their belief system. Even in the face of actual facts, they don't want to believe it. I'm going to read this again. The presence of arches indicate that Bigfoot is an excellent upright walker. This is, of course, suggests anatomical similarity to man and none to the anthropoid ape. Apes cannot functionally walk upright because their pelvis is long, their legs are short, and the muscles in their backs and legs are relatively weak. The big feet are obviously superb bipedal walkers. They ambulate with a slight hip, knee, and ankle flexion that provides the upper body mechanics for mountain movement and concealment. Like man, possessed of powerful extensors of the back, hips, and legs, basic for erect posture, they can move through the woods with ease while hunting or while remaining concealed. Like the prehistoric Indian, leaving little or no trace of their presence. This flexed position, even in motion, allows for the selective placement of the forward striding foot before relieving the weight of the following foot. Result, concealment. He is a master of it. No matter how he places his football, heel or full, it is a controlled gait that leaves few, if any, indentations for the tracker to follow. It is the flexed gait that gives the honest but erroneous impression that the arms of the big feet are longer and that the legs shorter than they really are. The combination of body hair and the tremendous gluteal muscles, the buttocks, give an underslung appearance, particularly when viewed from uphill or downhill positions. I'm sorry, friends. Hook, line, and sinker. We're done. How many times do I have to show you? Oh, well, say hello to the audience, girl. Huh? Say hello to the audience. Yeah, there you are. Yeah, I love you too. I love you too. Good girl. Now, Warren Thompson and Archie Buckley ran a group, Bay Area Bigfoot group, for a long time. And they went all through the Trinity Alps. That was kind of their specialty area. And they had a lot of Bigfoot sightings. And Archie himself had one very close Bigfoot sighting. And if you go to our website, nabigfootsearch.com, all of the newsletters from his group are posted. You can read them. I put them up for you. And you can go out there and you can see what he did. But one of the things that his son explained, that Archie used to go and hang fish 10 feet up in the air in different spots near where he was camping. He knew that Bigfoot couldn't get it because it was hanging on fishing line and the bear couldn't reach up that high, but a Bigfoot could. So one time in the middle of the night, he heard something tramping through his campgrounds. He got up, sneaking around, and around the corner, he got within feet, face to face of a Bigfoot. He said it changed his life. And since that time, he tried doing that before, and he got tracks and other things, but that was really the one that Archie Buckley turned the corner for him. And there have been few people in our world that have stood up like Archie, that had the expertise on ambulation and foot movement to write an article like I just read to you. Now, understand something. No preconceived notion. I'm not looking for a specific angle. I'm just reading everything I can find on the topic. I'm trying to educate myself and come to a logical conclusion about what some people believe to be an illogical entity. And I understand that. But I also want you to understand that there were some really, really credible people that went at this 1,000%. Peter Byrne was one of those people in Oregon. He went after it for a number of years. And unbelievably, Peter's one of those rare researchers that never did have a sighting. Now, I've been invited to several conferences and things where Peter was at. It's the only person in the Bigfoot world that was a true researcher that I'd really like to meet that I haven't met. Because everything has told me that Peter was a true gentleman and is a true gentleman. So Peter, if you're watching, hope we meet someday. So I do want to get back to first book I wrote, The Hoopa Project. And there's a story in here. And I'm going to read it to you because it helped me get to a point of understanding one critical thing about Bigfoot. It's these hands. Here's the story, page 119 of the Hoopa Project. Inker McCovey took me to the Hoopa newspaper office where he knew of someone who had another strange Bigfoot encounter. Warrior Sanchez. Inker made the introductions and Warrior immediately greeted me warmly. Warrior stated that he was in the middle of working on a business regarding the COSOS networking project, but he would gladly give me an extensive interview and take me to his residence if I could come back at 11 a.m. I agreed to. I met Warrior, and he asked me if I'd follow him up to his residence. He got into his vehicle, and I followed him 5 miles to his house. He lives on Transmitter Hill on the opposite side of the valley. The hill is named for the transmitter because the tribe has a huge transmitting tower located in plain view on the side of the hill. We drove along the base of the valley in a northerly direction, then went up the transmitter. to a road near the top of the mountain where the transmitting is based. We're approximately 2,700 feet in elevation. We left the paved portion of the roadway, made our way to a very rough dirt road. We passed approximately 4 residents till we reached a steel-framed gate. The gate was open and we continued down the road for another mile. We arrived at a small clearing about 2 acres in size. A small residence that appeared to be built up off the ground was in the center of the clearing. The residence faced downhill towards a large forested area. It had a small porch that faced the forest. I'll actually show you the picture I took of a residence. That's what it looked like. It is looking downhill that way. As I got out of the vehicle, I saw 2 chickens running through the yard, and I watched as Warrior exited his car and was greeted by a large dog, a kind of a mix of a lab and a Rottweiler. Warrior introduced me to his wife who was pregnant and standing on their deck. Warrior also introduced me to his dog and explained that it was fearsome. It had taken on many bears in the last 4 months. Warrior showed me some open scars that the dog had from bear. The dog was scary looking. I remember that. He introduced me to the bear. The dog was really friendly to me. Man, he looked mean. And like I've said before, Hoopa has more bear per square mile than any place in California. It's amazing. Again, lots of food. Warrior stated that he and his wife moved into their residence approximately 4 months earlier. He also casually said that his dad is one of the only 2 remaining medicine men on the Hoopa tribe. He stated that he has lived in Hoopa his entire life and is extremely familiar with local wildlife, sounds, habitat, and behavior. He said that his residence that he is renting has stayed vacant for over 5 years with nobody visiting or maintaining the area. He told me that I could see from our drive that the area is very remote and scarce human activity. Looking back on it, that area remaining vacant for 5 years played into what was happening. And hold on. Approximately a month after the Sanchez's moved in, they noticed that their chickens were disappearing. They were well aware of the mountain lions in the area, and they initially attributed the loss to a natural predator. Warrior stated that 2 or 3 months before, just after dusk, he and his wife heard large branches breaking in the forest area in front of the residence. He said that it was just starting to get dark and he decided to grab his .22 caliber rifle and scare the bear that was making the sounds. He said that he made his way to the porch when he saw a huge figure that appeared to be standing erect on the edge of the forest. He said that it purposely shot high over the head of the creature in an effort to scare it. He said that he and his wife immediately heard an extremely loud prehistoric sounding yell that was piercing in intensity. Warrior said that he had never heard that sound before and knows it doesn't come from a bear, wolf, etc. The yell lasted several seconds and was followed by the creature leaving the area and several large branches breaking. Warrior said that he turned to his wife's expression and noticed his dog sitting at his feet. He was shocked to see the dog sitting on the porch and not chasing after the creature. Warrior said he slightly nudged the dog and said, "Go out, go get him," but the dog wouldn't move his feet and kept his head lying on the floor, almost cowering. He said his wife had a shocked look on her face and said, "What was that?" The night after the yelling and shooting, Warrior claimed that he and his wife were lying in bed and they heard a large rock hit the bedroom window. He reminded me how isolated his residence was from any neighbors. I told Warrior that it had been reported that Bigfoot had been known to throw rocks at people at their residence, on trails, and camping. He looked shocked. The latest incident occurred 2 days prior to my arrival at his residence. He said that it was at again about 9 p.m. and it had just gotten dark. He heard a loud, deep coughing sound, almost a woof woof, but very deep and loud. He said he went out to his porch, and his dog was again lying at his feet and wouldn't move. He tried to prompt the dog to go to the animal, but again it wouldn't move. Warrior said that he stayed on the porch listening and watching for another 30 minutes when he heard large branches breaking in a manner that would indicate a creature was leaving the area. As I talked with Warrior, he agreed that the behavior of the creature up to this point was mild intimidation. He said that he and his wife were scared, but they weren't going to leave. He also stated that he had never had the time to walk down the hillside and check out the forest where the sounds and the Bigfoot activity occurred. I asked Warrior if I could investigate the forest and the mountain. He said, "Sure." As we made our way down the hillside, this was interesting. The thickness of the forest and the type of vegetation strongly reminded me of the forest near other residences. We're approximately 30 feet into the forest at an angle where Warrior's windows of the residence could not see the location. I found a clump of chicken feathers. Warrior immediately stated There's my chicken feathers. But where's the chicken? It was a unique setting because it appears that something plucked the feathers off the chicken, but there was no carcass or blood. Warrior and I continued further down the forest where we found a second site containing more chicken feathers and another clump of feathers. The site appeared to be older than the first and had more feathers. It was obviously another location where something plucked the chicken. This is an odd sight as predators usually kill and eat their prey on spot. What can pluck feathers? What do you need to pluck feathers? Need hands. Would a mountain lion pluck feathers? No. Would a bear pluck feathers? No. But a Bigfoot could pluck feathers. And he had never gone down this hillside. I think he was a little afraid. I had my big gun with me then. And we went down there. And there were these 3 piles about this big of feathers. Very neat. It was almost like something sat there and made a pile of feathers. And then came back the next night and got another. Warrior said that the thefts occurred over days, not all at once. It's not like the Bigfoot came in and took 4 chickens all at once. Just took what he needed, one night, one every couple nights. Wasn't greedy. I found it fascinating because that's when I knew for a fact Bigfoot had hands like us. Because to pinch something and pull it takes strength. To take a rock and throw it takes hand ambulation. So it didn't have ape-type hands, but it also had the ability to hurl. So in the book, there's several stories about people in Hoopa who were victims of this type of rock throwing. A lot of people in Hoopa fish the Trinity River. It goes right through the middle of the reservation. Terrific fishing during certain parts of the year. Absolutely unbelievable. Even as little as 10 years ago, I haven't been up there lately, but really good. And there was a story told me by an older man. He was sitting and fishing, and he was sitting in a spot that he had never been before. He said he was just being real quiet and sitting on the bank, and there's a big hole there. Hole meaning a big body of water that was kind of still. A lot of people like to fish there. And he said that felt little tiny pieces of rock hitting him, and he thought initially maybe they were acorns coming off a tree. He was trying to just push it away, trying not to think about it. He wasn't moving. Then he heard a couple branches break behind him, and he still wasn't worried about it. And he heard the sound behind him. And then he said he first heard a basketball-size boulder coming through the trees above him, and he heard it coming. He said he looked up, and he saw it come over the top of him and land right in the middle of the pool he was fishing in. He said, "Dave, that's good enough for me." He packed everything up and left. So I asked him, I said, "Could a man have thrown that?" He said, "There's no way." He goes, "That boulder was huge." So something didn't want him there. Something wanted him to move. Something didn't want to hurt him, but they wanted to get their point across, and they did. All right. I'm trying to keep you interested. I'm not trying to deluge you with thoughts and ideas all at once. This needs to settle into your soul as an understanding. So Bigfoot has hands. Pluck those feathers. Warrior and his wife saw it. You also have Archie Buckley. Probably has 20, 30 years of Bigfoot research. He's seen one. Expert in ambulation, and explains it walks like a man, has feet like a man, has bones like a man. You see where I'm going with this? I haven't seen any experts come up and say, we found ape bones, we found gorilla bones. No, you haven't. And in all my research, I never did. So where does that leave you? Right? So that's Bigfoot 101, class number 8. Folks, let me tell you, outside right now, it's 12 degrees. I'm going to go take Huck outside so she can use the bathroom. I'm going to put on my 3 woolly coats. I got my hat on, and I'm going to hope that the wind's not blowing because it's mighty cold. And this has kept me warm for many days. Our website NA, like North America, bigfootsearch.com. Go to the store there, you can find all the kind of information. And we have hundreds of pages of Bigfoot research for you to read. I'm telling you, it's interesting stuff. I don't have any ads that come up in front of you. I've never placed ads on our website. I always thought that was kind of cheap. So, get educated. The Hoover Project. We still have some of these left, not a lot. And Tribal Bigfoot, you can get at Hancock House Publishing in Vancouver. Thanks a million for being here. I really appreciate you. And I have some fascinating classes ahead. Politis out.